shining up for you, is interesting. It says collector's edition right on it. It's the first comic book that ever featured a black character on the cover. This was 1965, Dell Comics, Lobo, Black Cowboy. Even in the mainstream price guides, you can find this listed, and you can still find All Negro, which was 1947, but majority of black comic books, there's most of the independent efforts, it's very, very hard to find a price listing for them. And there's people now trying to work on a price guide. I wish them good luck. That's going to be real interesting. I had the appreciation that when I began my research that the availability and prices were going to change, and I see it already. This is the artist who did this, Tony Tallarico. I've been in touch with because I did an exhibit where I had a cover of this in a little small museum out in Long Island. And got a letter from him saying I was proud to see my work was still on. I didn't even know he was still alive, let alone that he had done the actual work. So now we're in touch as well. Good. Basically, he takes a page from the Lone Ranger legend. That here's a guy who is a Buffalo Soldier, so that you got to be historically correct. And he gets accused of murdering a guy that he actually saved from two evil white guys. And the guy, just before he dies, gives him his gold mine. So not only is he very proficient, now he's rich. Mm-hmm. Lone Ranger, of course, has the big white horse, Silver. He has very powerful black horse. Mm-hmm. And gold bullets, because he has his own gold mine. But it's a very good premise because basically the idea is he's got to go around and prove his name, throughout the West. Unfortunately, only 2 issues ever came out. Okay. There was a 3rd issue, and you have to remember the times. It was 1960s, and they were going to bring the 3rd one out called Black Lobo, but it never got published. But Tony Tallarico sent me a copy of the artwork of the original cover. So when I start putting that together, that's what's going to happen with that. Okay. This is Lance Tooks. It's a contemporary black artist and writer who does marvelous things with his women. Always shows them as voluptuous, full-hipped, black women are very, very beautiful. He does black children very nicely. His storytelling is amazing. Even though he follows a linear pattern in his literature, he tells the story through lyrical terms, like with poetry, and he does things with natural elements for people with their hair. And as you can see, he has no problem putting the full glory of black women's hair. Very, very talented brother. Lives in Spain now. And because they love his stuff in Spain and Italy. Same way with some other brothers as well. And it's almost like in the 1930s, where black artists, when they found that they were not truly appreciated here, they just went to Europe and people just loved them to pieces. This book, Still I Rise, this is the cover of the latest edition. This was done by Roland Laird and his wife, Tanisha, and Iahu, Adolfo Bay, who was the artist. And they went back and redrew some of the pages. I actually have original copies of the pages for the original edition that I keep in my exhibit that travels around the country. And of course, they included a piece at the end on Barack Obama, because that just makes sense. And they basically cover the history of African Americans right up to the present day. There's humor, there's pathos, there's obviously sadness, because it's a great deal when you're talking about slavery, but historically, absolutely accurate. And he put out the original version in like 1996, 1997. And it's very, very popular book. A graphic history of African Americans that never really been done. There are books that talk about pieces of our history or stars from our history. But he's one of the first guys who really covered it from one end to the next. I don't just stay in our country when I'm looking for images of African Americans. This actually comes from England. There's a series of books called 2000 AD. And it's a series about a bunch of guys who kind of like rollerball players called the Harlem, what is it called? The Harlem Heroes. I actually have the original pages from this book. The guy who sold it to me, guy in Ireland of all places. And when he found out what I was doing, we got in touch over eBay, and he was very excited. He said, "Would you be interested in the original pages?" And I'm trying not to stutter. Oh, geez, that would be okay. I guess if he ain't got nothing else, that'll be all right. That's fine. The Lost Boys of the Sudan. This was the series that was going to be. Let me see. I don't want to get me shine on that page. Okay. Yeah. Who escaped major tragedy in their country and came to this country. This is kind of telling their story. It was planned as a series. It says 1 of 4. I don't think any other came out besides the first one. But telling a story in a graphic manner and basically in their own words. And you have to love that. That's really, really well done. Donald Goines, anyone who knows African American literature, wrote about the dark side of our black existence: the gamblers, the hustlers, the killers, the pimps. And let me get the year right before I start lying. 1984, he did this graphic novel, and see, it wasn't even called a graphic novel. What was it called? A visual novel. 1984. So he kind of predated the graphic novel form, even though Will Eisner obviously created graphic novels for everybody. I just was fascinated by this. It was very hard to get more than one copy. If there's more than one out there, I'm still looking for it. But the artwork is superb. In black and white, the shading is very, very true to life. And it tells the story of a man who is a professional hitman and travels around the world killing people. And his daughter doesn't know anything he's doing. He's trying to keep her from the bad side. But unfortunately, she gets seduced into prostitution, so now he has to come back and do some of the stuff that he does for his own family. And let me get the right year for this. This was in by Melville Square Publishing out of California. 2003, they did a smaller version of it. Really hard to do the entire story in this format because you had to kind of get a sense of the full pages. Although this still does give Donald Goines stories. And it's a nice introduction to him as an African American artist. This is going to surprise a lot of people. This is The Merchant of Dennis. This is about Hank Ketchum, who created and syndicated Dennis the Menace for years. Very, very popular comic strip. Even today, comic books, TV, movies, I mean, people just love the characters, eternal. Little scampy white kid who just, it's not really a bad kid, just very energetic. And he made his fortune with this character. Hank Ketchum was also known for his travel log books. He traveled to Europe quite a bit. He had been in World War II, so he really fell in love with Europe. In the late 1960s, he decided he wanted to do a black character in his strip. He wanted to do his part for civil rights. Let's be inclusive. And he did a character, and basically he got lambasted for that. This is the comic book. This is the comic strip that eventually came out. But the first one he did says that he had difficulty with Dennis saying he had difficulty with his new friend because he could run faster than he did. So a lot of people, well-meaning liberals, decided that, and black people, let's get real, decided that he was trying to say something about, well, black people always run fast, something like that. And Hank Ketchum was frankly surprised. He said, I'm trying to be inclusive. Where did all that stuff come from? He wasn't even in the country when it happened. He got a call from his editor and he couldn't understand what's going on. I think to his dying day, he never could figure out why people were not appreciative of his effort. They did, they lauded Charles Schultz for doing, adding Franklin to Peanuts, but here we go.
Now, what was the joke again, Bill? Because it was
the exact.
I have a problem with race.
Okay, I've got a race problem with Jackson. He can run faster than me.
Okay,
and so they changed the caption. And considering what they were doing, even in the 1960s for caricatures of black people, that's fairly okay. I mean, it's just a normal kid with that dark shading, so you could actually tell he was black. I ain't mad at Hank Ketchum. Anybody ask me, I'll tell you up front.